So a couple of months ago I started this channel with a video called Who Killed Brian Griffin in Family Guy, and just recently it was blocked worldwide and taken down by YouTube for some copyright thing, but I was pretty proud of that video and it had over 10,000 views. A pretty big accomplishment, but it then got struck down despite the fact that it was up for months. And so I've decided to re-upload it, not only because I was proud of it, but because I think it's a video that more people would enjoy. And so I'm gonna be re-uploading it today. If you haven't seen it already, then go ahead and enjoy, and if you have seen it already, then a supporting rating would be appreciated. But without any more further ado, here's my video from December 7th, 2017, Who Killed Brian Griffin in Family Guy.
It's been almost 4 years, you'd think I would have forgotten about this by now. But nope, I still sit here wondering who killed Brian Griffin in Family Guy. Yeah, I was gonna go for a bit of an epic voicing there, but I kinda gave up halfway through.
Brian, look out!
So for some context, back in November 2013, there was a Family Guy episode named Life of Brian. Ironic considering after this episode he had no life. Who wrote this script? In this episode it started off with a classic time travel bit with Brian and Stewie where they ruined the timeline with the Indians, and long story short, Stewie said fuck that ever again, I ain't need no man, and got rid of his time machine. Then whilst Brian and Stewie were playing hockey in the street, a random car came speeding round the corner and it struck Brian within an inch of his life. Of Brian. Then this happened.
Crap, what the hell happened? That guy sucked.
Yeah, kinda takes away from the sincerity of the moment, but hey, this is Family Guy. So I do have one person in mind who I think killed Brian, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's see what else is going on here. Let's start off with the car that killed Brian. It was a 2011 to 2013 Mercedes-Benz E-Class Coupe. And so let's take a look at all the significant people in Family Guy who drive cars and see if we can theorize something here. So we have the family station wagon, a 1975 Ford LTD wagon, but all the people who would have drove that car would have been inside at the time, as we saw moments later after he got hit, so it can't have been any of them. Not to mention it's clearly red and the car that struck Brian clearly isn't, so it rules that out. The car is also similar to Brian's Prius at first glance, but it's not Brian's Prius. It's not George Bush's 1967 Pontiac GTO, and I'm low-key ridiculously proud of myself for pronouncing that. And it's not Quagmire's 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air, despite him probably having the motivation to want to kill Brian. I mean, yeah, he completely hates the guy's guts, but it's really not that deep, is it?
And I think what I hate most about you is your textbook liberal agenda. How we should legalize pot, man. How big business is crushing the underclass. How homelessness is the biggest tragedy in America. Well, what have you done to help?
However, perhaps it was Mayor West. He's essentially Family Guy's equivalent to the Mole Man from The Simpsons, except like a million times better. Do not at me. He's incredibly sporadic. He's the mayor. He would definitely have the means to gain an access to a new Mercedes-Benz. Not to mention in the Simpsons crossover, there was literally a similar scene where Peter was hit in the middle of the street, right outside the protagonist's house, and with a car. Eerily similar to Brian's death. I'm no philosopher, but I'm just saying the links are there for it to be Mayor West, and it would make reasonable sense. Plus, like I said, he is the mayor. He would have the means to cover his tracks if he did ever kill someone in his own city. Like in an episode once when it was suspected he had killed someone, like in, I don't know, it was like right in the middle of all the seasons, I forget when it was exactly, but I'm sure I'll insert a clip. He had killed someone and then came out to the press in a bloody shirt and no repercussions were made. It was just a joke about something ridiculous from the kid like, do you sleep with the light on? And he stormed off. You see, it's this kind of tomfoolery that if Mayor West was the one in the car, it would be just like, oh, yeah, sure, why not? Especially with this meta approach Family Guy has these days, it wouldn't surprise me if the killer just popped up and said, hey, I'm the one who killed Brian. There you go. I would honestly not be surprised. In the slightest. Another theory is that it was a small crossover moment where someone like Roger, director Bullock, or Principal Brian Lewis were the ones who killed Brian, you know, from American Dad. But it seems a bit ridiculous to me that it just seems like one of them theories that seems really ridiculous and a bit of a stretch. And now, the penultimate theory. So in Family Guy viewer mail number 2, we see the car that killed Brian in Life of Brian, and it is the same car. The scene that takes place in that episode is a comedic scenario, thus guiding our attention away from the car. So in this episode, Peter has the power to turn anyone he touches into Robin Williams. Soon everyone in the town has become Williams, and things get hectic and a car nearly runs over Peter. As it turns out, it's the same car and it matches with the one that caused the death of Brian. That leads many to think that Robin Williams is the killer of Brian Griffin, despite the sincerity of the original moment. And it just seems a bit ridiculous to me that such a serious moment in the history of this show would have Robin Williams behind it. I have nothing against Robin Williams, but it just seems implausible to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass the question on to you. What do you think of this theory? Is Robin Williams the one behind the death?
Oh, jogging! Oh, run, Boris, run! Oh, I'm a Mercedes.
Now, drum roll please. The man, spoiler alert, who I think was the one in 21 to kill Brian in Family Guy, James Woods.
Someone to care for, to be there for. I have James Woods.
Someone to do for, muddle through for. You have James Woods.
Someone to share joy or despair with, whichever betides.
Yeah, and here's why. The erratic, nonsensical, inconsistent, maniacal behaviour. And if it was not an accident, he has the motivation to take out Brian. In addition to having a deep hatred for Peter Griffin, he probably also hates Brian's guts as well, who helps Peter every time they ruin Woods' plans. Not only this, but Woods is rich, of course he would be able to afford a Mercedes, and he has the motivation to kill Brian. And it would be an explainable and easy way out for McFarlane if he were to ever try and justify and explain the killing of Brian other than, you know, ratings. It just makes sense. But hey, that's just a theory. A Family Guy theory. So thank you for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, then be sure to leave a like rating on it. I spent quite a lot of time planning this, scripting it and whatnot, so any feedback is appreciated as always, and let me know, who do you think killed Brian Griffin in Family Guy? Comment below.